Hello everyone and welcome to my weekly update with me, Richard Perry, market analyst at Forex Markets. Each week I take you through the key events I believe will be driving your investments in the coming days. Now, moving into this week, we've got a fairly sort of strong dollar that's coming through the market still. We've got the US trade-weighted dollar, which, as you can see on my chart, trading at the highest since March. And that's that speech by Janet Yellen on Friday has not really done much to wipe that strong dollar outlook off the table. Bit of a mixed outlook on Monday moving into this week. We've got a fairly strong sort of data-heavy, event-heavy week ahead of us. You've got the Chinese the Chinese growth data, which will certainly be driving risk appetite. You've also got the third and final presidential election debate in the States on Wednesday evening. Obviously, as Clinton's starting to sort of pull away in the polls, markets are taking that as more of a risk positive. And also we've got another aspect being the ECB monetary policy, which on Thursday could have a bit of volatility, certainly for the euro. Now, also what you have is the continued talk about hard Brexit, which is impacting on sterling and also UK assets such as FTSE 100, etc., and also the gilts as well. So a lot of volatility that we're seeing coming back into the market again, the VIX volatility index, which is starting to come higher. So that could be a bit of a harbinger, or certainly is reflecting the fact that traders are taking on more protection for the downside on their portfolios. Now, in terms of the Forex markets, we've got the euro, which is beginning to fall away. Actually, we've seen euro dollar breaking below 110.50, which I've seen as a long-term sort of pivot line. That puts the pressure onto the downside, and the ECB monetary policy this week will certainly have an impact on that, as will the presidential debate, and it'll be quite an active currency, I think, this week. In terms of cable, again, hard Brexit talk. Anytime anyone sort of comes out on the political side talking about either from the UK government or even the EU about Brexit, that seems to sort of see cable flying around. Seems a bit less volatile than it has been recently, maybe arguably even starting to settle down a bit, but it needs to certainly hold on to that key support at 120.83 to start to sort of generate a bit of support maybe, and possible base for a recovery. But in terms of dollar yen, which is the classic safe haven trade, the dollar yen pulling higher suggests that the market is increasingly sort of dollar strengthening, and also moving away from the yen is generally seen as a market positive move. So the fact that the dollar yen has been sort of settling a little bit cautiously, sort of failing to really make that breakout, it's a little bit of a sort of mixed message that's been sending out. Now, in terms of your equity markets, you've got the FTSE 100, which has been the big outperformer again, generally on Brexit views, really, because the weakness in sterling helps the FTSE 100 significantly. FTSE 100, however, has been starting to come under a bit of strain in the last few days, starting to pull back lower again on Monday, and it'll be interesting to see if the sterling starts to recover. Maybe you'll see a correction on FTSE 100. But equity markets generally are starting to feel a little bit more strain. You've got the S&P 500, which is sort of putting pressure on the support at 2120. If that breaks down, that completes a top pattern. The DAX continues to sort of move in its sideways, sort of mild negative bias range. Very choppy moves on the DAX, but still it doesn't really seem to be able to make much traction, and every time you get a rally on the DAX, it seems to pull lower again. Now, in terms of your commodities, we've seen the dollar strength, which has been impacting across the precious metals. You've got gold, which has been sort of basically now moving sideways, having been sold off significantly, not really able to get traction in a recovery, although you could argue if you do start to see a market correction and volatility going through the roof, then maybe you'll see that safe haven gold trade pulling higher again. But at the moment, it's fairly much settled and still with a bit of a slight negative bias. In terms of your oil price, we've seen the fact that the oil price has been driven by news flow. Anything surrounding the production agreement cuts, and through OPEC, also Russia partaking in that agreement, has been an issue there for the oil price. Started to move a little bit more sideways. That strong dollar may be having an issue, but a little bit of nerves maybe in front of this OPEC meeting at the end of November. So what about the rest of this week? Well, in terms of your economic data, you've got, as I said, those three big main events. You've got the China growth on Tuesday. You've got the presidential election on Wednesday and the ECB on Thursday. Generally, though, around that, you've also got the US inflation and UK inflation on Tuesday. Those numbers need to be watched. Are you starting to see a bit of traction in US inflation? Janet Yellen was talking on Friday about the fact that she was willing to let inflation run hot for a bit. Maybe this is where we start to see the signs of that coming through. Also, UK inflation. Not only that, we get the UK inflation and also the UK earnings on Wednesday. Are we starting to see UK inflation picking up? That's an interesting one, because we had all the sort of prospect of food price inflation coming through, and will that start to be seen through the numbers? So lots going on this week, and I wish you good luck in your trading, and I will speak to you again next time. Thank you.